Hey, everybody. Welcome to Media Arts 101. So, hey, you guys made it. So, what are we going to do in this class?
Learn to produce studio quality like productions.
Yes, I like that answer. That's a pretty good answer. Yeah, we're going to learn how to basically make movies. This is a crash course in filmmaking. We're going to start from the bottom, basics, and get all the way through. And when you guys are done with this class, you're going to know how to make a video, a short film, a better YouTube channel, whatever you want to do with this knowledge. But I guarantee you that you'll get way more information out of this class than you'd get off of YouTube or pick your favorite place to find stuff. Um, so let me just upfront talk about who I am and give you a little bit of my background so you know where I'm coming from. I've been a director of photography for the last almost 30 years. So I've worked on a lot of television shows, independent films, commercials, whatever, you name it. Some of the things that I've done, you might have heard about them, maybe not. There was a show called A Thousand Ways to Die on Spike TV. Anybody ever see that show? Yeah, I shot
Yeah.
about just about all those.
Yeah, I remember that show. It traumatized me as a child.
Excellent, and we did our job.
Yep.
I did a show. I did like forever. I did a show called Modern Marvels, which was on History Channel, that biography. I did a car show called Monster Garage back in the day with that guy, good Jesse James. Top Gear, worked on that show. Currently, there's a bunch. If you really want to know what I've done, you can go look me up on IMDb and you can see all the stuff I've done. There's too much to I can even remember. I'm still working in the industry. So right now I've been working on a show with Ice-T called In Ice Cold Blood. So he's got his own little crime show he does on the side of SVU or whatever the heck crime show he normally does. And it's basically a real life documentary crime show about like real murders and stuff that happen. It's on Oxygen Channel, so you probably could, if you want to tune into it, you can watch it. But that's kind of my background. So I've been doing this for forever, since I started, since I was in school and I wanted to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. This is what I wanted to do. So I've been teaching at ELAC for a couple of years. I got my friend Aaron, who runs the department, kind of tricked me into coming in. He's like, "Hey, we need help setting up a cinema department. Do you want to stick around for a little while?" I'm like, I don't know, we'll see. And then next thing you know, I'm here for a while. So you guys are going to have like a great perspective on this, because we're going to talk about theory. We're going to talk about lecture about all these ideas. But what I'm going to tell you is that everything that I'm going to talk about, everything I'm going to teach you guys is going to come from the real perspective of what it's like in the industry, what it's like to be on sets, what it takes to get something done. And so I think that's a better way of approaching this whole concept of filmmaking than it is to go, all right, today let's turn to chapter 23, page 16, set etiquette, do's and don'ts, right? Here, we'll talk about these theories, but I'm going to talk about it for real, like how it really impacts stuff and what the legit deal on it is. Does that sound cool?
Yes.
Sounds awesome.
Cool.
Very cool.
Yeah. Then you're in the right place then, if you think so. So today we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff. But first of all, we have to get through some of the house cleaning. We got to run through the syllabus, run through a bunch of BS type of stuff. But once you get done with that, we're going to shift gears. The thing I will tell you about this class, there is a huge amount of information. And I tried my best to figure a way to water it down, figure a way to make it as easy to digest as possible. But in the end, there's a huge amount of information. So there's no way, you got to think about this class as the tip of the iceberg, just getting introduced into this world, because there's no way you could teach anybody everything you need to know in 16 weeks. But in saying that, what you're going to get is a really solid foundation on it. we're not going to go into the microscopic details of how to write a screenplay, how to develop stuff. We're going to cover it on a broader channel, but you're going to walk away with a better understanding of how this process works and a better understanding of how you want to apply it to your own projects, whether that's, making music videos, making short films. Maybe you want to make a feature film. Maybe you have a pilot idea for a TV show. Maybe you just want to make better YouTube videos. It doesn't matter. The trick about this whole thing is that it doesn't matter the size of the project. The whole concept, the whole theory behind it applies no matter what you do, if you approach it that way. And some people might say, well, I'm just doing a quick YouTube thing, so I don't need to really think about all this stuff. Yeah, you can do that if you want, but your product quality won't be as high. And so that's kind of the whole point that I'm going to bring to this. Make sense? All right, so let's just kind of get through this thing. So if you go in, let me share my screen real quick. So I'm sure some of you have jumped on the Canvas shell already and started taking a look. Homepage here is a great jumping point to get the stuff. There's a bunch of normal stuff here. Let's jump into the syllabus real quick and just run through that. Okay, so obviously Mondays and Wednesdays, 3:30 to 5:35, 3:30 to 6:40. That's the days we're going to meet. It is technically a Zoom class, so we are going to be lecturing. We're going to be discussing hanging out. So you want to be aware of that. Let's let this person in real quick. This course teaches students to produce content for film, online, television broadcasts, emphasis on network cabling, blah, blah, blah. Basically, we're going to learn how to make films. That's what we're going to do. So when you're done with this class, you should be able to employ industry standard practice in positioning and operating a digital cinema camera. I hope so. Applying standard Hollywood editing techniques to create a narrative feature sequence. Yeah, you should be able to do that too. So course communication. Okay, so office hours are pretty much appointment only. So if you really need to talk to me in person about something, just email me or just send me a message on Canvas inbox, and we'll just set something up. It's a lot easier to do it that way than saying, okay, today only on Thursday from 12 to 3 is when the schedule is. No, just let me know. The best way to reach me is going to be through Canvas inbox. If you do it through Canvas inbox, I guarantee that I'm going to see it. Email, usually I see it, but sometimes I've had them get, the email didn't make it through for some reason. So go with Canvas whenever you can. It'll be easier. 24 to 48 hours. Usually I respond within 24 hours, but if it's weekends, it may be a little bit more. So just heads up on that. There's the email address you can reach me at. There's some chat program. We used to have this cool one called Prompto, but they took that away. So now I haven't played with this chat yet. So we'll see how that really works, but you can try that. Individual Zoom conferences can be scheduled with me. Like I said, we'll set up an appointment. The announcements. So I'm going to post a lot of information. Like if I'm updating the whole class, I'm going to do it in the announcements. So just get into the habit of checking there for anything. If I'm going to say, hey, class is going to be delayed, or we're having a guest speaker, or whatever it is, I'm going to post that information always in announcements. That's my main way to directly reach all of you. If I need to speak one-on-one with somebody, obviously I'm going to send an email. So you should check that. Make sure you keep a track of that. I'm also setting up Q&A forums. So there's going to be multiple question and answer forums based on what topics we have. So there'll be one general one for the whole class. If you got questions about anything, drop it in there. We'll have one on cinematography, one on editing, one on development, all sorts of things. So those are great places to drop questions in, because you can email me and say, hey, I got a question, and I'll answer you. But if you do it in these Q&As, it's a great for the whole class, because chances are if you've got the question, somebody else has the same exact question, so we can share information. Two, it's just a great resource if we start kind of thinking about this class, not just as I'm in my Zoom box near like the Brady Bunch on a wall here, but more like we're going to try and make this more of a community type of event that I'm sure lots of you have information that you should share with us. That will be great, knowledge that you all have. That would be a great mixture here. And I think using these little forums, these discussion groups, will be a great place to exchange information and get answers. Not necessarily from me, but you might find something from a fellow student. So take advantage of those. Make sense so far? Okay, so course requirements. Let's see, assignments. All assignments must be completed in full and handed in on time. I'm not really accepting late assignments. So this is pretty mission critical in this class. We don't have a lot of assignments, I'm going to tell you up front, but the ones we do are pretty big. So when we do our first project, our midterm project, our final project, they have to be handed in on time, because if you don't, you're not going to get to be part of the critique. And if you're not part of the critique, you're missing out on the whole point of this class. It's all about critiquing our information, getting experience, or getting someone to critique your work to help you get better. So please make sure you get everything in on time. Also, assignments need to be labeled. So sometimes I get someone, they render it out from Premiere, and I just get 001.3. And I'm like, who the heck is this? I don't know. So every assignment needs to have a label, and it should have your name on it and what assignment is on. It is. So if you upload stuff that doesn't have that, I'm not going to accept it. It just has to be labeled. So not a big deal. And if you don't know how to do that, just let me know, and I'll show you how to set it up when you render it out in Premiere to do it. Course utilizes a combination of Canvas and Zoom for class. It's your responsibility to understand. I'm sure all of you by now know the drill, right? You know how to work this stuff because you've been doing it for how long, right? I know I'm at that point now. So if you do need help and something's not working quite right, just let me know. Instructors may drop a student, possibly, but it's your responsibility to drop. If you decide like 2 or 3 weeks into this class, like, man, you suck. I don't like this class. It's lame. I'm not getting anything out of it. I'm out of here. That's okay. No hard feelings, you know. Sometimes shit doesn't work, right? So just do yourself a favor. If you decide you don't want to be in the class anymore, just drop it. That's all. Move on, and maybe come back next semester, or don't. You know, it's all good. No show. Some students who basically, and I'm sure I always have in the beginning, that either show up for the first day and then that's it, and then they don't show up anymore and they don't do any work. If you don't make a presence on the Canvas, or you don't show up for lectures, you don't do any work over the first 2 weeks, the school wants us to tell us who's not showing up, and then I got to drop you. They're considered a no-show. So don't get in that position. If you've got some situation where you got conflicts with scheduling or emergencies at home or whatever, just reach out to me. Just say, hey, I can't be in class for these couple of days or whatever, and just let me know there's something going on, because if not, then I may drop you, and you may not want to be dropped in, but that happens. So that's considered no-show. And same thing for dropping students. If you just, even like 3/4 of the way through the semester, there's a certain amount of students that just drop off, stop submitting and doing everything. If I don't hear from you in a couple of weeks, I'll reach out to you to make sure everything's okay. But if not, I may have to drop you at that point. So we're all on the same page. So basically, as long as you're active and you're here, everything's cool. If you don't want to be in the class, or you don't got time, or life threw a curveball at you and it's time you can't do the class, just send me an email, let me know what's up, and maybe we'll work something out. If not, just take it another semester. No big deal. Stuff happens. Technological difficulties. In a perfect world, obviously, we would all have brand new shiny computers, right? Super state-of-the-art Macs and Windows machines, and be able to do everything perfectly with high-speed internet. We all know that's not the real world. I remember in college, and I wrote it in here, but it's true. When I was in college, my computer would overheat in an hour. And so my life sucked when it came to doing papers and doing work. So I totally understand people who have bad computers or bad connections and are having difficulty. So if you need a better computer, if you need better internet access, hit me up. Some ELAC and some of the other class schools have programs to help students get access to better technology. So just let me know, and I can forward you into the right direction, or find out if any of that stuff's available. And then last thing, I'm not really an IT person, but I do know a lot about computers. So if you are having something problem with your computer setting something up, or you're having problems getting Adobe's Creative Suite working right, just let me know and we'll kind of figure it out. Don't wait to the last minute before your assignment's due and go, I can't figure out Premiere. It doesn't load up on my pro computer. As soon as you have a problem, just let me know. And if I can't help you, I'll find someone who can help you get in the right direction. What else I want to talk about? So grading, 20% class participation, assignments, quizzes, 30%, midterms, 20%, final project, 30%. So these two are the big guns, these two assignments that we're going to do. They're going to take up a huge amount of time. So that's the ones you don't want to mess around with. You know, assignments, these are kind of simple compared to these, not that big, but these are big. In the end, you know, you want to do the best job you can. Again, final projects will not be accepted past the due dates. Once they're locked out in Canvas, then that's it. Unless there's some emergency and you really got to talk to me about it to get an exception. Again, midterm and final are two big student projects. So you want to make sure those are the ones you focus a lot of energy. Same thing with evaluation, anything above a 90 is A, anything under 82 is a B, anything over 74, and so forth. So it's all pretty standard. What are we going to talk about? Some of the topics we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the creative collective process, photography versus cinematography, basic composition, entertainment industry jobs, DSLR cinematography, framing, blocking, production process, story development, workflow, intro to editing, Adobe Premiere, basic color correction, grading, delivery. There's a huge amount of stuff here. So we're going to have to get rocking to get this all in. But I guarantee you, if this is something you're interested in, it's not going to be boring. The rest of the stuff you can read on your own. You know, this is all stuff. If you've got there's a policy here on academic honesty. We all know that. Don't cheat. And student success programs are available here. Americans with disabilities, or DSPS students, if you need any of these type of programs, just hit me up, send me a message, an email, and we'll get it going for you. All right, let's go back to homepage. Let's go to the modules. Okay, so a couple things here. Now we got that all out of the way. There's a little student survey. If you haven't done that yet, please fill that out, because we're just going to get a level of what equipment everybody has and have a better understanding of where you're all at. Also, there's this student learning outcome quiz. This is not graded. It should take you less than 10 minutes to do. It's just, they basically want to get a feel for what you know coming into the class. And it's just a way of evaluating everything. Okay, so let's dive into this. Let's talk about the intro here. Okay, what do you need for this class? The first thing you're going to need is access to Adobe Creative Cloud. Now, we are not going to be using Premiere for a while. We've got a lot of ramping up to do before we get to the stage of editing. But what I want you guys to do is to make sure that your Adobe Cloud account works. So you should be entitled to a free subscription to Adobe while you're in this class, but I guarantee you that there's going to be problems. Every semester there's problems. Some people have no problem signing in and getting it. Other people have, miserable luck, and we have to go through IT. So what I need you guys to do is to make sure this works. And we're going to step through it in a little bit about how to set up, make sure it's all working right. But you need to check this week, or at least by next week, to make sure that you have access to it. Because if you don't, by the time it comes around, it's going to be too late. Because IT, if you guys have dealt with college ITs, they move at the speed of a snail. It takes forever because somebody's got to talk to somebody else, and they got to get approval from somebody else, and then it's got to go back to this person, and it goes in a big loop, and then next thing you know, it's 2 weeks later. So you need to get on it ASAP. You need some type of camera. So you need access to, would be access to a DSLR or a mirrorless camera, or even a digital cinema camera. How many people don't have access to any type of camera? Okay, so not the end of the world. So you guys can see me. There is a remote possibility and that I can get cameras into your hands from the school. So, but that's what you need to do is email me and let me know about it, that you're interested in that, and then I'll find out what the policy is, because we did have a policy last year where we let some cameras out, but I don't know what happened because I think a lot of students didn't return them on time. And so I'm not sure the department is ready to be handing out cameras, but there's an option, possibly. If that's not the case, the worst case scenario, can you use your iPhone? Yeah, or Android phone? Yeah, you can. Will you get the same best results that you would from a DSLR? No, but something's better than nothing right now. We are all on campus right now. You'd have access to our cameras and it wouldn't be a big deal. But because of the stupid pandemic, we're still stuck in this crazy world. So let me know. All assignments and work will be uploaded via upload link in Canvas. Shouldn't be anything new to you guys. I'm sure you're doing it with your other classes. So everything's is uploaded on time. So I'm only accepting there. Please don't email them to me. Don't Google Drive them to me. Just please upload them, because that way it's in the system. I know that you handed it in on time. It's not going to get lost, and we don't have to worry about that. I've had students in the past send something and it didn't get through, and then they're like, where's my assignment? I have submitted and I can't find it. It becomes a mess. So keep it with Canvas and life will be grand. We've already talked about Zoom participation, so we can skip that. What this class is and what it's not. This is a crash course, and this is a big overlay of the class. It is not completely in debt to one certain thing. We're only not spending months or weeks on how to write a script, and we're just breaking it up in enough so that you get a gist of how everything works and able to complete your assignments. But you still will walk away with a massive amount of knowledge. Okay, so let's talk about Adobe Creative Suite. So there's basically 3 ways to do it. You should be able to sign up for an Adobe account with your student email. So the way to do it is, if you go to this module here, click here where it says create an Adobe account, you should get this window here. Me, I've got my name here because I'm already registered, but if I go up here and click create an account, it's going to ask for my email and a bunch of information. So you're going to do that, but what you're going to do is you're going to use your student email that was given to you by ELAC or whatever school you're at. That's the only way it's going to accept it. If you use your Gmail or anything else like that, it's not going to accept it. So that's the best way to do it. You should be able to log in. It should allow you to download an app, which is basically the Adobe Creative Cloud app, and that will install on your computer, and it will install all the software. You will have access to the full suite of Adobe stuff. So not just Premiere, not just Media Encoder, but you also get Photoshop, you'll get After Effects, you'll get Media Encoder, you'll get everything that they have, you'll have access to during the semester. So that's the ideal way, because it doesn't cost anything. If for some reason it doesn't work, you can do a monthly subscription. Here it says Photoshop, but that's wrong. It should be Premiere. Come on, slow internet. So if I go down to, where is it? Design, After Effects, Lightroom, Audition, Premiere, Rush, Animate. They don't even give it to you here, so that's weird. They must have pulled it out. But you can see it's $52.99 a month for everything, which is not cheap. So I'm going to say maybe that option's not the best one to go, but this one is. So if you click on this link here, you can get 6 months for the whole Creative Suite for $40, which is a steal, because like I said, it was $52, $53 for a month. But here, if I go to this website, I can get 6 months for $40, or I can get 12 months for $80, which saves hundreds of dollars. So, and what I tell everybody to do, if you sign up for the free version through the school, do that. And then at the end of the semester, when you're like, man, I still want to keep Adobe because I like it, take the 12-month one, because once the semester ends, you're going to lose your access to Adobe. But if you do it here and grab it, you can have it for 12 months. And as long as you're a student, if you're say you plan on being a student for the next couple of years, every year you can renew it for $80 and save yourself hundreds and hundreds of dollars. So just to keep it in the back of your head, and the link's there, so you can always grab onto it. So that's what I would do if I were you guys. This way you can get it for free and then pay a microscopic amount of money compared to what it normally costs and have it for a year or two. Make sense? Any questions so far? Okay. All right. So what is interesting about the filmmaking process? And I'm going to refer to everything in this semester as filmmaking, okay? Because, and this is going to be a blanket term that covers, it could be music videos, it could be TV shows, it could be YouTube. It doesn't matter what it is, it's content creating. But for me, I'm going to call it filmmaking because it all comes back to this idea of filmmaking. How many people watch movies? Anybody here? Why is there like hundreds of people in the credits?
Because it
Takes
takes
a lot of people to make a movie.
yeah.
Why? But let's think about it. Why does it take that many people? Why can't you make a movie by yourself?
It would
Mm,
take
you said
longer.
No,
Why not? Why can't you?
because
When
it
you
takes long
can,
so many things.
It's
I
gonna
think you
take a,
can. It's just more like takes more time.
there you go. You got it. It's time. Time versus quality. So why it takes an army to put it on the screen, this whole idea is specialization. And that's what the first thing you're gonna find out. So for me, I'm a director of photography. It's a very specialized position in the industry. So when I first started out, I was shooting camera and doing news and stuff. I did editing, I did a bunch of things. But so at this point in the stage, when you ask me, well, what can you do in filmmaking? I became, well, I can direct. I can be a director of photography. I can do camera work. I know how to do sound. I can do sound. I can write a little bit. I can be a writer. I can definitely know how to produce. I definitely know how to edit. I can do all this stuff. But if you ask me, what do they pay me to do professionally? It's really camera department. It's really director of photography. That's because that's what I specialized in. So in order to put something on the screen, when you go to the movies, are you going to the movies for free?
No.
No,
No, right? How much money you spend?
like at least $10 looks like here.
10 bucks, right? 10, let's say $10 to $20, depending on where you go. I think it was 20 at the ArcLight before they folded. How about streaming? You stream it for free or are you paying for that?
You're paying monthly
Paying.
for that.
Okay. So take it from the consumer's point of view. Do you want your money's worth?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So what would happen if you paid $15 to go into a movie to see a movie and it looked like someone whipped it together on YouTube?
You wouldn't feel like you got your money's worth.
Be pissed, right?
I would call it YouTube Red.
Yeah, exactly. YouTube Red.
I will
So-
make a YouTube video about their YouTube video, therefore monetizing my terrible experience, making it all worth it.
Wow,
in
there
the
you go.
long
There's-
game.
There's inspiration right there. I could see a deep wallet in your future. So this whole idea is high quality content. That's what this whole game is about. You can go on YouTube and I'm not gonna say I hate YouTube because I don't. There's lots of great stuff. I use it all the time. But YouTube is the Wild West. It is a hodgepodge of everything you can imagine, right? And I'm not telling you anything you don't know. And so that means quality level is all over the place, right? How many people here have just searched YouTube for videos and you click on a video and in the first 30 seconds, you're like, I'm out of here. This is awful. And move on to the next
Yeah.
thing. We've all done that because we're all expecting a certain level of quality. And so YouTube is the Wild West because it's all lowered. There's some YouTube videos that are just brilliant and they're shot and produced and written amazingly. And then there's others I'm like, dude, really? You didn't even put an ounce of effort into this video and you expecting people to give you 1 million hits on this? There's something not right about you. So this whole idea of being all over the place, it's the democracy of technology where everybody can be a filmmaker. What's YouTube's logo? Used to be their motto was broadcast yourself. Well, before everybody had access to all this equipment cheaply, in order to get in the game, you needed to have access to really good equipment. You needed to have access to skill levels, because if these movies, and we'll use movies again, if people are paying money for this, then there is an expected level of quality that goes with this. So that means I can't. So if we go back to me, I'm really a DP. I do know how to edit. I've done editing professionally. I've done directing a little bit professionally. I've written a little bit, but I haven't done all that stuff to the point where I'm specialized and I'm an expert on it, in the professional industry. So that means, could I do it on my own? Sure, I can. Have I done independent features and short films by myself? I have. But in order to get this a big project done at the highest quality, I need an army of people with highly specialized skills in order to get it done. And that means that we need to pay for these people and we need to pay for the movies in order to have it done. So if we look in the camera department, well, I've got someone who's camera operator. I've got another person who's the first AC, a second AC, a director of photography. Then I have a lighting department. It's going to have a gaffer, a grip, a best boy. All these roles have very specific functionality and job things in them. And what that means is that when we're moving, we're actually shooting, that everybody's doing their job. And if everybody does their own piece of the pie properly, the thing gets done. And it gets done efficiently and on time. So this whole process of filmmaking is this collaborative, creative process. I need all these people in order to get it at that level. If I want to make a Marvel movie at the level that people are expecting it, I can't hire a bunch of people out of college. I can hire a certain amount of people out of college, but the keys, the people that are really counting on to pull it off, need to have this experience level. So that means what I need is mostly masters, specialists. I don't need jacks of all trades and masters of none. So when we all start out, we're all trying to figure out where we fit this puzzle, this world of filmmaking. And that's okay, because that's really what you're supposed to do. And you shouldn't, unless you absolutely know what you want to do. And that does happen. That happened to me. I knew what I wanted to do when I was in college, before that. So it was just a luck, but lots of people not sure what they want to do. So in the beginning, you want to explore everything that you want to do and then try to figure out where you fit in the puzzle, where your piece fits in the whole game plan. And that's okay. And that's what you should be doing, thinking about. But the thing you need to remember, and this is, again, we're talking about people who are interested in getting careers in the entertainment industry. It could be TV, film, whatever. You need to figure out what you want to do sooner than later, because the next thing I'm going to mention here, when you say 10,000 hours to master a skill, anybody here believe that? Absolutely.
I do.
Very much so.
It's 100% accurate. And I know, because I tried to cheat it. I tried to find the shortcut. I knew there must be a way around it. And then eventually I gave up and realized, no, it's 10,000 hours. So in order to master something at a level where you are a master, you got to put the time in. So that means you got to start ASAP. The longer you wait to fill in those 10,000 hours, the longer it's going to take you to get there. So when people first start out, and I was equally guilty this way, I was when I first started, in college, you're like, hey, you want to do this? Oh, no, I'm not ready. I'm not good enough yet. I need more time. I need practice or whatever. Forget it. You just got to do it. You just got to put the time in, because you're going to make mistakes. In the beginning, you will make mistakes. That's just part of the process. And you got to go through those mistakes and learn from those lessons to get to the point where you need to be to become an expert, to the point where people will hire you for what you're capable of doing and not take a risk on you. Does that make sense? So the longer you wait, the more time you're giving your rivals time to get up to speed. So if you're like, well, I'm not ready, I'm going to wait until I'm 30. There's somebody who's 21, 22 years old already pushing to get to that point. So, and I'm not trying to put pressure on anybody and say that competition is, is a bad thing, because it's really not. You do need to be competitive. This industry is a highly, highly competitive industry. There's so many people. I know, like when I'm working, I know I try not to mess up, and I rarely mess up, but I know that if I decide, well, you know what, I'm too good for this and I'm not going to do this anymore, or I messed up, there's 100 other people waiting to take my job. They're waiting to get in there. That's how competitive it is. And that doesn't mean to alarm you or discourage you. It just makes you need to understand that how competitive it is, and that you have to be prepared for that. You have to be really on your game. And so part of this class, we talk about career. How many people here are actually interested in a job in the entertainment industry? Anybody?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So everybody else who's like, I'm not sure yet, that's okay. Because everything we're talking about here is just is a reality of life. So no matter what you choose in life, you got to think about this stuff. So 1,000 hours to put in, 10,000 hours to put in. You might as well start now than later, right? So what that means is, even if you think you're going to make stuff that's junky or crappy or amateur in the beginning, who cares? Because you just got to get through it. You got to get better. And so don't be intimidated or self-confident about, or having no self-confidence about doing stuff. You're like, oh, it's just going to suck and I'm not good. I'm not ready yet. Forget it. Just do it. It's all about doing and not waiting. It's just, think about Nike, just do it, right? That saying is so true, no matter how you look at it, because you need to get past that. Once you get to 5,000 hours, man, you could see the light. You could see the top of the mountain, and it's all reachable. If I can do it, you guys can do it. So for me, I grew up on the East Coast in New Jersey, and I was not brought up in a rich family. We were pretty poor, and I had to put myself through college. I had to work while I was in college, so I had to do everything to get where I'm at. And if you had asked me when I was first in community college, if I was going to one day live in LA, work on some pretty decent TV shows and make that my living, I would have told you were absolutely insane. There's no way that I was going to get to that point, because I had no faith in it. I had no vision of that. And so my point is that it totally can happen. It happened to me. It can happen to any one of you. It's just putting dedication in your mind, putting that commitment and saying, you know what, I want that goal and I'm going to do it. And yeah, life does get in the way. There's always going to be an obstacle. There's going to be a left turn, something thrown at you. And it's not about the straight path. It's just about how you weave and bend and get out of the way, and how flexible you are to still get your goal. So this is my little pep talk, and I'm off the soapbox now, but just something perspective for you guys to think about, right? Because sometimes when you first start out, you're just like, man, it's impossible. And it does feel like that, but it's not true. It can be done. Anybody has a chance to make it if you have the will and desire to make it. Okay, so going back to this whole 10,000 hour thing. So one of the things, you can make a movie by yourself, right? We kind of, if you really want to, has anybody successfully made movies by themselves? Got one here. Anybody else? Okay, how about like professionals? Can you make a movie by yourself? How about stop motion animation movies? Are they movies?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And usually they're done, individual people get it done. So it's totally possible to do something on your own. The problem is the time. So if it takes you 10 years to make a movie, that's going to be a hard career to have, right? Because every 10 years you put a movie out, and how are you going to pay for that movie and all that stuff, right? So same, if you take this into the bigger scale, movies, the only way they get done, if you think of a movie like, what's a big, huge blockbuster that came out last year? Anything? Anybody know?
Fast 9.
Which one?
Fast and the Furious 9.
All right, Fast and the Furious. How about, let's think of any of them. Tenet, Marvel movies. It's like, let's look at movies that are like CGI, like big effect movies.
Godzilla versus Kong.
There you go, Godzilla versus Kong. Okay. There's no way a movie like that could get done on the schedule that they needed to get done if it was done sequentially by a couple of people. So in order to get that done, everything has to be done in parallel. So if you look at the time scales it takes to make a movie, so let's say Godzilla versus Kong, it probably was in development for a year. It went into production for eight to 9 months, maybe. I'm just being rough guesstimate here. And then probably another 6 to 8, maybe 10 months in post-production. So we're really talking about a 2-year, 3-year cycle to get this movie from conception to screen. That's not a lot of time for something that big, because all the CGI work, everything needs to be done. So what that means is in order to do it, because time is money, and that's the one thing we're going to learn in this class, and I'm going to be always reminding you guys, is that in the professional world, time is money. Every dollar, every second that is happening, every minute that's happening on set costs a certain amount of money. So 1,000 Ways to Die, when I was shooting that, our budget, when we broke it down, was about $10,000 to $15,000 a day to shoot. So let's just say $12,000 a day to shoot, and I break that down by a 12-hour day. Every hour on set cost $1,000. So that means there's no room on set during that 12-hour period to not be working, to not be doing something, to not be getting everything done. Because that's how they break it down when it comes down to the accountants looking at the budget and looking at how much money there is. You break it down by that type of quantum, how much money it costs per minute, per hour, whatever. So time is money. So if I'm going to spend money on a movie like Kong, versus Godzilla versus Kong, and let's say it, I don't know, $30 million to make it, I need to get it done in this certain amount of window. So I need to have people working in parallel as they start development of it. I need to start getting casting going. I need to get the groundwork going for post-production, getting the visuals come up. All the stuff has to happen at the same time. I can't do it in single stages because I'll never meet my deadline, especially if they're like, well, we need to get it done by Christmas, the Christmas season. There's a whole bunch of movies that are going to come out this year just in time for Christmas that have been either put on hold or been aggressively rushing to get to done in that time frame. So this whole thing is about time, money, and this creative process. So because it's a creative process, one thing interesting about this that I believe, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is an art form, right? Everybody agree with me that filmmaking is an art form?
Yes.
So there's two things about this art form that are very much different than all other art forms. So what are the type of art forms we're talking about? Well, maybe writing music, poetry, painting, sculpture, whatever it is. The big difference here is this is a creative collaborative process. So this is the sum of the work is greater than its parts. If you took a movie and broke it down to its pieces, what is it? What art forms is it?
All of them.
I mean, it can be interpreted as all of them.
Exactly. It's all of them. It's the only art form that encompasses all of the other art forms. Think about it for a second. Do I have acting in theater? Yep. Do I have music? Yep. Do I have photography, like cinematography? Yep. Do I have theater lighting? I sure do. Do I have sculpting? Oh yeah, I do. Makeup, writing, I have that. Set design can be considered. Every single creative thing that humans have figured out how to do is wrapped up into filmmaking. And that's what to me is so amazing about it. Because it's not just one thing. People get so caught up on the, oh, it's the acting, oh, it's the cinematography, it's the directing. But there's a million other things that are going on there to make it the way it is. That's why when you see the Oscars happening, there's all these awards: best screenplay, best, art direction, best wardrobe, because each one of those arts in itself needs to be acknowledged because it's the sum of all the pieces. If you just had a great actor and you had nothing but a white room and they shot it in there, would it be as good? Would it be just as powerful as whatever you could do normally? No, because it's missing all the other arts. So it's a sum of all the parts. So all those pieces need to work together in parallel to get it done. So that's the first thing that's different about it. The second thing about it that's different is that, and I know some people here may argue with me about this, but it's the one art form that is governed by business. So you might say, well, what about a painter who has a gallery? Yeah, they have a gallery, but the gallery is really, it's not really about making money. In the entertainment industry, in filmmaking, TV, whatever, it's the business comes first. It's all about the business. You can't get something done unless the business end is done. And you're like, well, wait, I can do my own short at home. I can do something on YouTube. You can, but we're talking about the higher level professional world. So the one thing when you go into this business, you have to understand, you have to look at it from both sides. You have to look at it from the artistic world, and then you also have to look at it from the business world. And you have to see how those two things balance each other out. And you will see they do balance. Because if I have too much creative, art going on, then the business and the profit's going to go the other way, and it's not going to work. And then I got to go the other way. And if I have too much business and not enough creative art, then we get lame stuff like what Hollywood's been doing for the last 10, 15 years. So there's a balance between them two. And so whenever I work, I really strive to keep the creative part of myself going. But I never, ever, ever forget about the business end of it. Because if I do forget about the business end of it, I am not going to be in business myself very much longer. If I blow the budget, if I don't deliver on time, if I don't meet the schedule, no matter how good I am, how creative I am, no one's going to hire me back. Because if I blow it, then it's a big deal. And that's the big thing about once you get to a point where you've passed that 10,000 hours. People don't hire me. They hire me because I'm creative, but the main reason I get hired is because I deliver. I have a consistent track record of delivering. And I'm not tooting myself my own horn saying, look how great I am. No, I'm just telling you the way what it comes down to is that everybody I know who's successful in the industry delivers on time, delivers under budget, and gets it done, and still has creativity built into it. So you have to balance the two of these things. That makes sense so far?
Yes.
Yeah.
Any thoughts or questions about this? My rambling so far?
I would say, how would essentially a studio finish a product if they blow funds? Because recently, my friend got me into a series called Neon Genesis Evangelion, but he told me the series ended terribly because the studio ran out of funds. So if a series that you worked on, or that have worked on, if the studio runs out of funds, how do they finish the product?
Well, that's a difficult place to be in. And the short end of the story is that they usually try to raise money somehow, whether they get other investors in or something like that. I've worked on shorts where they ran out of money and they went out, reached out and found other people willing to invest. And that usually means, so if let's say I'm an executive producer and I'm producing an independent film, and I've got this much of the pie that I own. So I've got, we make a deal. I'm going to put this much money in, and in the end, I own this much points on the back end, this much rights to the movie, which means whenever the movie makes money, I get a percentage of the money back. But if I run out of money, I may have to sell a piece of my back end down, give it to somebody else, and they in turn give money. So in the end, I end up making less and less money. So usually most studios, don't do that. Most studios try not to. There's always things that go over, go over budget. And a lot of times they may account for going over budget and have backup funds. But when it comes down to it, that's the position we try not to go to. And so usually when the studio runs out of money, it means one of two things. It means A, the pre-production was wrong. Nobody really budgeted it out properly to figure out exactly how much it cost. Or two, something went catastrophically wrong during shooting and cost more money, and then they blew their budget. So it either comes down to inexperience or something that went wrong. And so usually like when you start creating your own projects and trying to get budgets going, a lot of times the first people that are hired are line producers, and their job is they know budgets. They know what it costs to do something. They can look at a schedule of how many days it takes to shoot this and go, okay, this is how much money based on what the script says it's going to cost. And if those people do their job right, then we have a good understanding without any weird things going wrong of how much stuff costs. But if they don't know what they're doing and they're just starting out, then they may totally under budget something, and then boom, you're in that predicament. Does that kind of make sense?
It does. It does. I was just wondering how does the studio get to that point? I had even asked him, how do you run out of funds? How did they not manage it well? Did they not think about how much it was going to cost?
I couldn't even answer that. Nope, I have no idea. Every sad story has a different output. So I'm not quite sure. But it does happen. It's happened plenty of times. Plenty of movies have never made the light of day because the budgets were wrong. So just to wrap this thing up, this is a collaborative, creative process that is basically hand in hand with business. You can't look at one half of it without seeing the other half. And so you could say, well, I want to be an artist and I want to make my own little movies and do my own thing. That's totally cool. But you may not make a living off of that. So in order to make a proper living, you need to understand this process. And even if you're like, well, I'm only going to be doing YouTube videos and stuff, that's okay. But if you adopt this in your head, then you're going to make better YouTube videos because you're going to be able to see budgets and you're going to understand that it's not all about creative playing. It's this whole balance between the two. I have so much fun on set. I highly recommend it. It's the greatest gig, in my opinion, working on a set and making movies and TV shows. But we all respect the budget and we all respect the business end of it to make sure we still have fun, but we make sure we're paying the bills properly. Okay. So this whole TV and movies exists as a business, like we just said. I got some numbers that are a little outdated because I haven't updated them because of the stupid COVID thing and everything, but I'll wait till 2 years from now to change it when the numbers come up. But 2017 gross income for the studio. In 2017, entertainment and media grossed $632 billion in the United States. $1 billion. Or 29.4% of worldwide total of 2.15 trillion. So that's a lot of money. This is a huge amount of money for an industry. And you're going to say, oh, wait, what about gaming? Gaming's bigger. Yeah, gaming's huge. Gaming is going to take over everything at one point. Hollywood and the gaming industry are just going to dissolve into each other at some point down the road. But when we look at entertainment industry, it's a huge number. Biggest growth, obviously, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, Disney Plus now. Who else has gotten gamed? CBS, HBO Max. Everybody's getting involved. 2017, Americans spent over $1.3 billion on movie tickets. Forget about streaming or pay-per-view or any of that stuff. Just going into the movies, Americans paid $1.3 billion. Average price, $9.60 each. Internet video on demand will rise from 8.2 billion in 2016 I got to look at it now and see. It's probably even more now because of the pandemic, but it's probably way past 101 billion now because we've all been sitting home watching TV. So the money is there. Anybody who says, oh, well, this is a bad industry to get into, there's streaming, there's YouTube, nobody's going to pay, nobody wants to pay for anything anymore, there's no money, you better not go in that industry. They're wrong. They're totally wrong, because the money is there. It's huge. It's still going to go. The demand is doing nothing but going up. So what that means is, for anybody here who's considering getting in the industry now, it's a pretty good place to be, because there's going to be plenty of jobs. The jobs may be shifting. They may be different than that they were 30 years ago, but they're still going to be there. Still going to be jobs, because the demand's not going to go away. It's just going to get more. And you might say, oh, well, what about YouTube? YouTube Red, somebody said, right? But yeah, but that's never going to fully take over. We've already seen YouTube. How much YouTube can you consume before you're like, wow, man, I want to go see a real movie. I want to see real storytelling. You know, and think about YouTubers, even the ones who really do great YouTube videos or make series and stuff on there, they never have access to the same level that we're accustomed to. Think about your favorite TV shows. Think about Netflix. The amount of money they're sinking into production right now is mind-boggling, how much money they spend. So the industry is not going anywhere. It's anywhere. It's just going to, demand for it's going to increase. It's going to change shape and form. Maybe we'll see ticket sales in the theaters drop down a little bit because of streaming offset it. But that doesn't mean that the content and the demand isn't going away. It's just moving from one to the other. Broadcast television may one day totally go away and just fully be streaming. It doesn't mean the TV shows that they're doing for broadcast isn't going to just be in the streaming world. The demand is going to be there. So the content's going to need to be created. In order to create it, we're going to need people who are skilled to do it. So it's not going away. I think right now the best gig to get into is editing. Editors right now are in prime demand out of all the jobs. So it's a great time to be thinking about a job in it. Okay. Any questions about that so far? Any thoughts? Well, what do you guys think?
Yeah, actually, I have a few thoughts. I was gonna say that YouTube actually, I don't know how often you go on YouTube, but they are selling actual movies now for you to buy, kind of like the way Blockbuster would do it. Like if you buy a movie, or you can rent it at the same time. It's not, you can stream it on YouTube, but you have to buy it or rent it first. So that's an opportunity for YouTube to meld in with the entertainment industry. And for people who say that because streaming is going to kill off, I guess, the entertainment industry as a whole, it's not really true, because the entertainment industry can still make money off advertisers, because if there's a free service, there's advertisements within these videos and movies that you watch, unless of course you're pirating it, but that's a very small amount of people that go through the hassle of risking getting a virus on their computer from downloading illegal movies.
Yeah, no, you're right. And it pretty much just encapsulates what I'm saying, is that the demand's there. It's not going. The shape of the delivery of the contents will change and keep changing. And I'm sure in 20 years from now, it's going to be totally different. But the demand's not going anywhere. Movie theaters are the only ones right now that are in danger of taking a hit. And the main reason is because, and it has to do with a couple things. First of all, it has to, pandemic obviously is devastating theaters where they might not be able to recoup. But technology also is a big thing that's fighting them. But this whole battle of, well, movie theaters are going to go away, this battle has been going on since the beginning. Since television became a thing, there's been a battle between TV and theaters. And every time, and this kind of comes to where it pushes technology. So without sidebarring too deep, for example, when movies first came out, they were black and white silent movies, right? And then sound came and it became talkies. And then TV came, right? And so TV suddenly was like, whoa, well, wait, why would someone go in a theater to watch a movie when they could sit at home and watch something on their screen in their house, nice, and get it for free, right? Except minus paying for the TV set. Well, movie theaters really thought about that. They're like, oh my God, well, this thing's competitive. What are we going to do? Hey, let's do color. we could do color. TV's black and white. Let's do color. That'll get people in there. So then, boom, they did that. Then they went to widescreen. Then they changed their style, like their technology got more involved, right? And then TV suddenly got color. And then they went widescreen. And then movies went to 3D for a while, and then that went away. And then it came back, and we had 3D revival again. It's all competition when TVs became HD, became better. They've been fighting each other for decades. So the only big thing now that's going to kill them off is what's going on with the pandemic. But now technology has made a turn that kind of is going to change everything. And that has to do with 4K. So now we have the ability to sit in our living room with a really high resolution, amazing image in our living room. Now you can buy surround sound, Dolby Atmos sound systems in your house, and you can have almost that whole experience almost in your living room. And so with streaming services, and now we see movie studios doing deals where their first release movies are being released in the theater and the streaming service at the same time. Now we put the movie theaters in a position where maybe they may dwindle into nothing. I don't know. I'm not, this is the one I'm not quite sure about right now. How many people still like going to the movies?
I still go to them. There are some movies I don't mind watching at home, but it's just not the same as going to the movie theater because you have the nice surround system and the nice picture quality. So
Picture quality, yeah. And we're going to see there's the battle for our eyes is really going to be happening in the next couple of years. What's the big set of movies that's coming out in the next couple of years? Anybody know?
Marvel,
yeah, Spider-Man, No Way Home, Sonic the Hedgehog 2. I would like to say another Fast and the Furious movie.
No. Avatar.
I would like to watch Dune.
The new avatars will be out. They were supposed to be out now, but they've been getting pushed. You're like, well, what's the big deal about that? Well, James Cameron, he's been really pushing 3D. He's been pushing advances in screening. And part of this new Avatar thing is going to be the next generation, I guess, of 3D, of screen experiences. Because if you think about the original Avatar that came out, they really pushed the boundary of what 3D was capable of doing. And at that time, 3D was really big, and it almost was going to be a full success, but it failed for a couple of reasons that studios were solely to blame. Dune's coming out this year, but we're going to see a big battle happening with Avatar and a couple other big blockbuster tentpole type of movies that are going to be trying to push technology to the limit to compete with television and streaming services. But in the end, I'm not too sure because the studios own both ends of the same battle. They own the streaming services. They basically control what movie theaters are getting what. And so those movie theaters are in a bad position. So we'll see what really happens at that point. Okay. Any other questions or thoughts before I move on?
I just want to say, actually, I think Regal is trying to combat streaming because they have a bit of a service. Like if you pay, like I think $30 a month, you can go to any movie, as many movies as you want during that month. So it's kind of a way to, in their way, combating streaming because they're essentially making their movies on demand to that person who pays for their membership.
Yeah, but it's also a sociological thing. So if we get to a point where people are just happy in their living rooms watching stuff, then we may get a generation where people don't care about going to the theaters. I'm not quite sure it's what the real outcome is going to be. But the thing you do have to be aware of is that aesthetics change and the way people consume stuff changes, and that's the only constant that happens in this world. How we do stuff right now, how we watch and consume media is going to be completely different in about 20 years. So for me, I'll be old and like crippled and like, hey, back in the day, we used to watch everything on a 65-inch screen. Now you got your fangled 3D wall monitors. I don't need that. That's going to be me. But you guys are going to be like caught up in like, wow, man, I remember it was like this, and now we're doing this now. Now it's all holographic, 3D, immersive, gaming, and instead of going into the movie theater, this might be where movie theaters end up going. Instead of going in and watching a theater screen, you're going to experience it in a 3D perspective where you have a virtual reality world that you're watching a movie in. So maybe that might be a world. I don't know. We'll see. It's all crazy at the moment. But how does this come back to us? So this whole idea about the industry, we need people to work in it. We need jobs. And these jobs need to be very specific because we're working in parallel. There's 100 people doing 100 things at the same exact time to get this thing done. The best way to think about making a movie or a TV show is that imagine a 747 jet flying with all its pieces that's blown apart in close proximity, a couple feet off the ground at full speed. There's all these pieces all trying to stay together as this train moves forward, trying to get this done. It just takes one thing to derail and the whole thing falls apart. And I've been on sets where it happened. I've been on sets where we were cruising and then the art department messed up and something's wrong. And all of a sudden the whole thing just goes, stops. And now suddenly we're like, okay, there's $1,000 gone. Oh, there's another $1,000 gone. We're all sitting around. Producers hate to see people sitting because they know when people are sitting, their money is just being burnt up into nothing. It's the thing about this is it's all about putting it on the screen. If we're all working and it's all working and there's no delays, then all the money they're spending per hour is going up on the screen for their consumers to look at. But the minute everything falls and crumbles and stops, their money is just evaporating and it's not going anywhere near the screen. And so that's something to think about. So this whole idea of all these pieces are moving together at full speed. We need to have these jobs that everybody has a specific job that's outlined and detailed about what they're doing so that nobody's doing too many things at once. Nobody's making calls for somebody else who should be doing what they're doing. Everybody's in their slot, doing their thing, working together like worker bees or worker ants to get the big collective, collaborative thing done. So when we look in the entertainment industry jobs, they're always broken down into department. It's like basically an army, if you think about it. There's all these divisions, and each division has their chiefs, their assistants, and all the grunt workers that do all the work. And it's the same exact concept here. So what we're going to do is look at some of these jobs here and think about, well, what do these jobs do and how do they relate to the industry? So there's a whole bunch in here, and you can look at it, and we're just going to kind of run through them quickly. There will be a quiz on this, so you guys have like a week to do it. It's multiple choice, no sweating. So everything you need to know is going to be basically in here, and I've kind of hinted the ones that you probably want to pay attention to. But let's start in the beginning. So production department's probably the biggest one, and that's going to have most of the producers and the line producers and the directors and everybody in it. So let's talk about who these people are and what their jobs are in the industry. So the first one is the assistant director, sometimes known as the first AD. Okay, so the first assistant director works with both the production manager and the director to make the shooting schedule as efficient as possible. The first AD will break the script down into shooting schedule, will also help manage the schedule of talent, crew, equipment, needs for each shooting day. Sometimes they'll even help direct the background extras in the scene. So when you think about the first AD, the assistant director, you must be, oh, that must be the person who just hangs out with the director and just, kind of is a second director. No, it's the opposite. They're the one that's stressing out. If you go on a set and look around for the person that's chain smoking cigarettes and looking at their clock all the time, it's this person, the first AD, because they're trying to keep the train rolling, to keep the machine going. The minute it stops, the producers are going to look at the AD and start yelling at the AD, what's going on here? So the first AD, they have one of the most difficult jobs on set. Their job, besides doing all this stuff, and there are also other things, they're needing to coordinate with all the other departments. So for example, when I'm shooting, because I'm the head of this camera department, I have a tight relationship with the AD because we're trying to make sure my needs are fulfilled to get whatever the director wants on the screen, but I need to do it within the boundaries of the schedule and the budget and the resources. And so me and the AD are going to work together to make sure that happens. So not just me, but the art department, the sound department, the cast, every other department, the AD has to basically jump around and coordinate. So it's a stressful job, but it's also a quite, can be a rewarding job, and they really have control over this. They're the main wheel that's going to keep everything controlled or guide the production in the right direction. So on bigger productions, they're going to have a second AD whose job basically is to work with the first AD, help them get their duties done. So they may do more secretarial work, if you even want to call it that, make sure call sheets are done, shoot days are coordinated. They may actually help coordinate talent, crew, anything that needs to be done to help assist the first AD. So probably the two biggest stressful jobs in there. The next is going to be the director. We've all heard about the director, right? What's the director? Well, director is the leading creative artist on a movie set. So the director works directly with the actors, their performances. They have the final creative control on almost every aspect of the film. So the director plays a role in casting, script revisions, shot composition, editing, everything. Usually the director is hired by the producers first. So it's a weird world because you're like, well, wait, isn't the producers in charge of the whole movie? Well, they are, but they're not creatively in charge of it. And then again, can be a gray line because sometimes some producers really step over and push their creative ideas on the director, but the director is the main creative artist. So whenever I have questions, whenever we're setting up shots and I need to figure out exactly what we want to do, I'm talking with the director. So really it's the director, the assistant director, and me who are like the main creative people that are on set trying to make sure everything goes according to what the director wants. So a director, if we think about the role of a director, they're one of the few jobs where they are technically a jack of all trades. Good directors need to know a lot about what everybody does. So they don't need to know every microscopic detail. They need to know enough to be able to communicate. So for example, a director working with me, if they understand lenses, if they understand what the difference between a 50 millimeter, a 35 millimeter, and an 85 millimeter is, as far as framing up shots, then we have a short communication because they know we can talk about it. But if I have a director who's like, yeah, I just want the camera here and it does this and it looks kind of like that, that's what I'm seeing in my head. I'm like, okay, well, let me think about what this person really wants. I think it's a 50 millimeter from that far, but I'm not quite sure. And so part of my job is try to get in that director's head. So most directors, they need to how to work with the actors. They need how to get the emotions, that the performance out of the actors, but they also need to know the mechanics of filmmaking. Because sometimes you'll get in a position where a first time or a newbie director doesn't know how things really work. They may be good with writing, they may be good with the actors, but they don't know cameras. They don't understand what the limitations of cameras are. They may say, well, I just want the camera to start up there and float down here and do 360 and then go in. And you're like, okay, well, A, we don't have the equipment for that. B, that's going to take a day just to do that. Do we have the budget and schedule for that? But if the director realizes, okay, well, I understand the limitations of the camera department, what they can and can't do based off the equipment, then they become better at their job. They can storyboard, they can create shot lists that actually are doable and not just fairy tales. Does that make sense? So they need to understand that. They need to understand sound. They need to understand wardrobe, everything, all the details. And that's kind of why they are the one. Like when you get to the Oscars, they get the Oscar for best directing because it is a grueling job, juggling all those departments, keeping them up. And yes, I've got the ADs to help me if I'm directing, but in the end, it all comes to me. When the whole crew turns to you and they're like, what do you want to do? Do you want to do this way or this way? Shoot this angle, reset this wall, this wall. Nobody's doing anything until you make a decision, because it has to be you. It has to be one chief, one person, captain steering the ship. There is no such thing as a decision by committee on a film set. Because if you do a decision by committee, guess what's going to happen to your film? It's not going to get done. Everybody's going to be arguing about what to do. So that's kind of why you see these directors, maybe they have a bigger ego. Maybe they're really focused on yes and no. And, maybe they'll listen to your opinion, but not necessarily go with it because they're the keeper of the vision of what's going on. So it's really important to realize that you can't, even producers, once they agree with the director, they can fire the director and get another one. But producers, if everyone's stirring the pot, then it gets diffused and we won't be able to get focus on what we're trying to do and meet that goal. So it's always better to have one person, the director, in charge of everything. That kind of makes sense?
Need someone to tell us what to do, right?
Yeah, but it's not necessarily that. It's not like, oh God, someone's going to tell us what to do. We need someone with vision. And that's, you look at these great filmmakers with Spike Lee, Spielberg, Christopher Nolan, pick your favorite, great director. They all have vision. They see every detail. They understand they've spent hours, if not weeks or months, agonizing over the script, every microscopic detail, forming it in their head so they know the answers when they're on set. That's what it's all about. So now let's move to producers. Line producer. This person basically is the keeper of the cash. This person supervises the entire budget of the movie. They keep track of the expenses. They keep track of where the money goes, who gets what, who gets paid what, how much money am I going to give to something. They still work for the producers and they still work for the director. But those people, when they want to have, like, if the director says, well, I need a big super techno crane in this scene, they have to talk to the line producer and convince them and the producer that it's going to be justified to spend that kind of money on a techno crane for this scene. Because let's say techno crane probably cost you about $15,000 a day to rent. Is the shot you're going to do be worthy of that? If yes, then okay, let's do it. Or you might say, yeah, it's totally cool, but we don't have the budget for it. Think of something else. So they're basically in charge of keeping the keeper of the bank. If they weren't there, everybody would be spending money like crazy, like water, and boom, the budget's gone. Just like you were mentioning, why did the budget go away? Why did the studio run out of money? The line producer may not have been keeping guard of the money very well. Now we move on to producer. Producer helps organize the entire production. There's usually multiple producers on TV shows, on movies, you name it, music videos. They're going to help develop the script into a workable project. They're going to assist with the hiring of actors, key elements. They're going to help keep track of finances, all that stuff. Producers basically, that's the hardest question to answer. Everyone's like, what's a producer do? Well, they produce. Well, what do you mean? Well, they help produce the movie. They get it done. Well, what's that mean? Well, they do everything. They're going to find the script. They're going to hire a writer. They're going to do all the things to help produce and get this thing done. So they're also kind of a jack of all trades. Production assistant. Everybody know what that is, right? PA. Anybody heard of that term? What's a PA? PA is your ticket into the industry. Production assistant is basically, most people start their careers as a PA. A PA is basically the entry-level job into any entertainment industry business. You can have office PAs, which means you work for the business end of the production. You could be a set PA where you're actually on set doing stuff. PAs basically do every bit of dirt work on set. They're paid the least amount of money. The only people who are paid less than them is interns who get paid nothing. And that might sound like, oh, that sounds like a horrible job. They're going to do all the dirt work. They're going to get lunch. They're going to sweep up when they're done. They're the first to come on set. They're the last to leave on set. They're going to work their butts off. Sounds awesome, doesn't it? But it is the best job. Because
Touch me there.
Say it again.
No, I'm gonna try to get in.
You're going to try and get into it.
Yeah.
And you should. So PAs basically, that's your gateway into the industry. And so here's how it works. We hire PAs because we need bodies to get the dirt work done. All right. So we're not looking for super specialized, highly skilled people. What we're really looking for is super motivated people. So we may hire someone who barely knows much about cameras or anything. That's okay, but they're going to work their butt off. I had one PA that came on board. We hired. I'll never forget this. This guy, he was a go-getter, man. He was working in our camera department, and I remember lunchtime. He came up to me. He's like, I have to leave for lunch, and I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, and I might be half an hour late back. Is that a problem? I'm like, oh, I'm not too sure about that. He's like, well, I have to take my final test at school. And this guy, on his lunch break, went back to school, took his test, got it done, got an A, and came back, and then went back to work again. And I was just like, whoa, that is somebody who's motivated. And so this dude's going to work with me whenever he has. And unfortunately, it didn't take much time for him to go from PA to camera assistant. And now he's in the camera department. Now he's in the union. Now he's doing his own thing. So the key here with the production assistant job is that people don't expect much from you. They just expect you to, as long as you can follow instructions and be there on time and get the job done, that's the bare minimum. But then the minute you demonstrate anything above that, like, wow, this person knows stuff, or wow, this person's motivated or dedicated or really works their butt off, then you're like, I think I need this person to help me do more than just be a PA. And I'll give you one more example. I worked on a show, and it was a lower budget reality type documentary show. And we just had 2 cameras and we had 1 AC, and the AC was overloaded and needed help. And so I went to the production department, the producers, and said, hey, I need another body. And there was a PA there. We saw this one PA, and he was like, his job was totally not related to us, but he's like, he kept coming over and talking to us. And he's like, well, whatever you guys need, I'll do. I'll help you, whatever you need. And we're like, okay, this dude's pretty solid. And he was smart and everything. And I came up to them. I was like, I need a body. And they're like, okay, we'll get you one. I'm like, no. I need this guy right here. This guy, this is the person I need. And they're like, well, I'm not too sure about that. We need him. I'm like, no. I need this person. You got to give him to me. And so I haggled with the line producer, and finally we're like, okay, fine. You can have him in your department, but he still has to go get lunch and sweep at the end of the day. And I'm like, deal. So this guy happily came over, did double duty, worked for us. And then the next shoot I hired him as an AC, second AC. He became my primary AC for years. He became the main person I relied on. And now this year he's moved on to camera and he got a job. Now he's off on Big Brother as a camera operator. So the key to this, and I know I'm kind of being rambling on this, but telling a lot of stories, but the production assistant job is the gateway into the industry. If you kick butt in that job, people hire from within. We always want to hire within. It's a much less of a risk to hire someone we already know than it is to hire someone completely strange. So if you get into the industry as a PA and kick butt, chances are you're going to very quickly move up the ranks into something else. And I've seen it over and over and over again in my career. I know PAs who started out as PAs are now executives at National Geographic Channel in a span of 15 years. So it's all doable. It's just how hungry are you? How hard do you want it? That's what it boils down to. So this may be the bottom end job, but it's such a valuable job. Without the PA, most productions couldn't get done. We need people to get lunch. We need people to get water. Someone coming up to me while I'm, think of the crew. We're working nonstop, focusing on what we're doing, out in the blazing sun, dehydrating, not even realizing. Somebody comes up and says, hey, drink this water. You're supposed to drink water. I'm not going to remember that person because they're helping me not get sick. So it's an important job. Production coordinator. Okay, let's move on. We're running out of time. Just a production coordinator is responsible coordinating all behind the scenes logistics. So they're just basically they're going to work with the production line producer and production producers to help get all the paperwork, make sure all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed. They're going to do all those, secretarial type of work for the producers. That's going to take us down to production designer. Production designer works with the director and primarily responsible for the design of the overall visual look and feel of a movie. This includes use of costumes, landscapes, props, and other visual scenery that could reflect the movie script. So as a DP, my job is to take this vision of the directors and everything that they create and put it on screen, the technical part of it. But I can only put on screen what's there for me to put on screen. I need the production designer to design everything we're going to shoot. So when you go look at Game of Thrones or some massive movie where there's all these intricate scenes that look like they don't exist in today's world, somebody had to visualize that. Somebody had to make sure all the elements came together so it looked like a real world that we're in. Think about a period piece like a World War II movie. All those elements had to match so it felt real. That's the job of the production designer. And that's why they're entitled to get an Oscar. Production manager, okay, it's basically is going to manage, oversee the whole production. They're going to work with the production coordinator. They're the ones that are basically going to manage the day-to-day business on set. So they're going to basically make sure we're organized, distribution of budgets are done, and crew, equipment, scheduling, everything that the day-to-day stuff that needs to make this army work and get the job done is going to be managed by the production manager. So he or she, and usually more there, it's a she than a he, she will be in charge of us all. That's the person we go to. We say, hey, I need help. I need this, or they'll ask questions. They're in overseeing all of us on a day-to-day basis. So these people, this whole department, production department, is what keeps the production going. Now we're going to look at areas that are more specialized. So camera department, my favorite department, obviously. First thing we're going to look at is the ACs. First AC is the chief assistant to the camera operator. The first AC camera person is in charge of measuring and pulling focus, an important element. So you may say, well, what? The camera person doesn't pull focus? What about autofocus? No, don't use it. It's all manual. It's all done by the first AC. And you're like, well, why? Why do we need the AC pulling focus? Why can't the operator pull focus while the AC, and why do we need the AC to do that? And the answer is specialization. If I have a complicated shot where the camera is on a dolly trucking in, I need the camera operator to be perfectly maintaining composition of the framing. So they might not be able to pull focus on the same time. So if I have someone whose job it is just to pull focus, I'm going to have less errors happen on set, because every time we mess up, let's say the actor did a perfect line, but the camera was out of focus. What happens? Okay, let's go back to one and shoot another take. Do it again, over and over again. If it's just me trying to do 10 different things at once, I'm prone to make more errors. And if I keep making mistakes, then the actor is going to have problems, and eventually it's all going to fall apart. So by breaking everything up into different units, into specific job descriptions, it makes it more efficient and faster. So if I have someone whose job it is just to pull a focus, their job is to frame the camera up. Their other responsibilities are to maintain the camera and everything, but their primarily job is to pull focus. That allows them to focus on that. And then as a camera operator, it allows me to focus on moving the camera and getting the shot composed perfectly. Okay, second AC, known as the loader. Nowadays, it's digital loader. Second AC basically used to be in charge of loading the film into the camera when it was all film. Today, their job is more about slate. They're going to make sure the clapper is working right, maintaining synchronization. They may help download the files off. They may pull the cards out of the camera and give them to the DIT to work with. But in the old days, they actually would take the film out of the camera and then change the magazines, and they do it in a tent where they put their hands in this black tent and do it all by hand, feeling it. And the worst thing in the world, you'd be watching the second AC and they're doing their job like this, and all of a sudden they're like, and you know that the can opened and the film unrolled in the bag, and now they're panically trying to get the roll back in. So there's a little bit of stress on it, but today not so much because it's all digital. Camera operator. So yeah, so now I've got someone who actually operates the camera, physically controls and operates the camera during filming. They're still going to be under the direction of the DP, the director of photography, but they're going to work with both the ACs and they're going to make sure the shots are framed and the camera movements is performed as instructed by me, the director of photography. So you may say, well, why do we need that? Sometimes lower budget stuff, the DP is also the camera operator, but usually on bigger productions, we have a multi-camera TV show. There's going to be multiple people operating cameras. Bigger movies, we got to have, even if it's just one operator, we're going to have one person operating and DP is busy doing other stuff. And I'll get to DP in a moment. Oh, I'm starting to lose my voice. DITs recently, last 15 years. So now most cameras are digital cinema cameras. The only time you're allowed to shoot film nowadays is if you're, a powerful director, or it's a vanity project where you're allowed to shoot film. But unless you're Quentin Tarantino, even Spielberg is starting to shy away from it. Christopher Nolan and maybe a couple other directors still shoot film, but the rest of us grunts all shoot digital now. And that's okay, because film had a long run, and we'll talk about this a little bit more in detail down the road. But digital cameras have now surpassed film cameras, and that's all I'm going to say for now because we're running out of time. But we'll talk about it in more detail in the coming weeks. So because now cameras are all digital, we need someone to download and confirm that all that stuff is on the hard drive. Because remember, everything that you shoot, everything that's captured by that camera, if you spend $100,000 on the set, that SD card you just shot on now is worth $100,000 because everything's on that card that you shot. So I need someone to make sure it's there and backed up and not accidentally erased. And in the beginning days of digital, and I'm super guilty of this, when I first got my first digital camera, I wiped out half a day's worth of shooting. And the movie where short film we were working, we self-produced, never got done because we couldn't recoup from that. And that was a hard lesson to learn. So we'll talk about proper protocol procedures for downloading and archiving and backing up your footage down the road. Okay, director of photography, me. Basically in charge of the overall visual look of the film as seen through the camera. I'm going to recommend what cameras to use, lenses for production, designing framing for shots, the camera movements, everything. But I'm not going to do this all on my own. I'm going to do it absolutely in conjunction with the director. So think of it this way. My job is to get into the director's head, see what their vision is, and translate it to the screen. That's what my job really is. Sometimes I have directors who don't care about what it looks like. They just care about the actors, and they leave it up to me to figure it out. That's okay. But it's much better to be a collaborative process where I'm working with someone who has a vision and kind of work. And my job is to enhance or take their vision, to the next level. So it's a very collaborative process. And so a lot of times, while I'm working, trying to figure out and block the shots and work with the director and the gaffer for lighting, I don't have time to operate the camera. So I need the ACs and the camera operators to be doing that shot because I'm equally multitasking like everybody else who are the keys. The keys are considered the heads of all the departments. So there's also still photographers and production still people there that actually will just take behind the scenes. You can't, if you're on a big movie or TV show, you can't just take your phone and shoot around and post those pictures. Not allowed to. We have to have someone's job just to do that. Steadicam operator, that's that crazy rig you see people attach them. Sometimes they use gimbals that are creating all these shots. That's another specialized position. I never did Steadicam because I don't have the time to learn it or do it, because I'd rather hire someone to do it for me. Because again, it's all about specialization. Okay, lighting department. So lighting department technically is under the camera department. We work hand in hand with them. Everything that I'm bringing to the screen, I need to light in order to do it. So even if you watch movies where it looks like they just shot it documentary style and it looks rough, it's lit. It's lit to look natural, but it's still lit. Everything is lit. lighting is key to all cinematography. And we'll talk about this more in detail later in the semester, lighting. So there's a bunch of funky names in here and interesting things. The most important job is the gaffer. The gaffer is known as the chief lighting technician. And this is my right-hand partner in cinematography. Whenever I'm working and I hire a gaffer, he or she is we're gonna work together to compose the shot and create the lighting for it. I'm still in charge, but as a DP, but this is the person that's in charge of the lighting department. It's gonna report directly to me. So they're in charge of that. They're gonna basically develop a lighting plan according to the desires of the director of photography. They're gonna work with the best boy and the key grip, which I'll talk about in a minute. Where to place the lights, what type of diffusion, how much power do we need? Are we shooting a night scene outdoors somewhere? Do we need a generator? Do we need to run power? What type of lights do we use? That's the gaffer is going to be in charge of all this. And now I may know what I want in lighting. I may know an extent about lighting, but I don't know as much as the gaffer because I don't need to, because that's their job. My job is to be more about camera, but I still need to know about lighting. So we'll have a conversation and I will say, okay, well, I want this much lighting to come in as moonlight from over here. And then the gaffer may say, well, I think we need a 9 light for that to do that job. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, you're right. I thought we'd use an HMI, but you're right, a 9 light might be better. So I'm going to rely on their expertise to help me make the right decisions. And that's the key here. All these people have specialized skills. When we all work together, suddenly the quality is so much better because I don't need to be a master of everything. Lighting, this guy is. He doesn't need to be a master of, or she doesn't need to be a master of cameras. I am. But when we combine our knowledge together, boom, the whole thing suddenly goes better. Can see how this formula kind of works? So Gaffer's in charge of that. They're going to have the best boy. Don't ask me why it's called the best boy. It's still, they should call it best person, right? I know plenty of best boys who are women. It's kind of weird. But the best boy is the lead electrician on set and is in charge of all other electricians. It's kind of similar to the key grip, which we'll talk about in a second. But basically the lighting department's broken into the electricians and the grips. Electricians are in charge of the lights and electricity. They're gonna, if we need to run power over here, they're gonna do it. They're gonna put the lights up and everything. The electricians are basically, or they also known as juicers, basically operate and set up the lighting instruments, cabling, just like I mentioned. If you think about the lighting department, there's 2 divisions. So they're that way. The grip, now, if the electrician is in charge of all the lights and the electricity, the grip's basically in charge of shaping the light that they provide. So that means they're going to create shadowing effects. They're going to put colored filters, diffusion, blocking. They're going to put nets in front of them. They're going to do anything to modify and reshape the light. The key grip is basically the same thing as the best boy, but for the grip department. That's the lead grip in charge of all other grips. And they're going to basically be the key grip, and the best boy report to the gaffer. And that's how the hierarchy works on that, in that department. Now, some smaller sets, smaller productions, the lighting department may not be broken up into 2 sections. It may be 1 section because it's a small 3 or 4 person team and there's not enough people. But when we get to big, huge sets where we need to light massive environments, where we've got 100 people working, they have to divide the lighting department up into 2 separate units to make it all work. It also has to do with the unions kind of demand that too. Makes sense so far? Everybody still awake, hopefully?
Yeah.
Everybody bored?
No.
Not yet? Okay. I'll ask that again in like 2 months and we'll see where we're at. Okay, so now we get down to script. We're just about, we're going to make it. So script department, the most important one here is going to be script supervisor and continuity. Now, we're not talking about script department where someone's writing and developing a script. We're talking about on-set jobs. So script supervisor continuity, well, they're going to work really close with the director, and their really job is to take notes. They're going to make sure that everything we need to shoot has been shot. So we break down a script. We're going to say, okay, I need this many shots to do it. when we're all working, we're working at a high speed, super fast pace. So we need someone to kind of step back and make sure that we've got everything we said we're going to do. If I'm shooting all these angles this way and I need a reverse of this person and I forget to do that, and we go back and we wrap the day and we go home and the editor's like, where's the reverse? I'm like, oh man, we forgot it. We're in trouble because now I don't have those pieces of the puzzle to complete the scene. So script supervisor is going to make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to do. They're going to make sure the coverage is covering everything based on what the DP and the director want. They're going to make sure the continuity is accurate. And we're going to talk a lot about continuity in this class. But basically, we've all seen it, right? How many people have watched a movie where someone in one angle has got the cup in their hand like this, and then when they cut to the other angle, the cup's in this hand like this? We've all seen that before, those continuity mistakes. That's where, the actor, everybody missed it. And so the job of the script supervisor in continuity is supposed to keep track of where people are holding stuff, what they do with their body gestures to make sure continuity is fluid and not a problem. And again, we're going to go in more detail about this in coming weeks, but it happens to the best of us. I was shooting these host wraps with Ice-T in New York, and we're all there. It's me there, the director is there, the producer is there, the AC, we're all there. Even Ice-T, we shoot a whole scene. He had a water bottle and he put it down on the set and nobody saw it until after we shot and we walked away. He walked and left, and all of a sudden we're like, where'd that water bottle come from? And we go back and look in the footage, and in some of the wide shots, yep, sure enough, it's there. And I'm like, how did we all miss it? We all of us missed it. So these continuity errors can happen to the best of us. So this position is super important. And it even gets more complicated when it comes into makeup. So imagine you have a scene, a movie where there's fights happening, right? And let's say it's a fight like a boxing movie, and there's a whole couple rounds of fighting happening, and the actors during the fight are going to get more and more makeup on where they're getting more bruised and beat up. So we're not necessarily going to shoot the whole thing in order. That whole fight sequence might take 3 days to shoot. So the script supervisor is going to keep track of the makeup and make sure that the bruises are the same every time when they go back into makeup, that they match exactly. Because if they don't match, then we'll cut from one angle, the bruise will be like this big, cut to another angle, the bruise is now lower this way, and all is going to look different. You're going to sit at home and go, hey, wait a second, how did that not look right? There's some weird mistake happening here. Don't want that to happen. Teleprompter, well, we've all seen teleprompters or heard about it. It's basically a piece of glass in front of the camera that the script goes by. We don't really use it too much on movies and TV shows unless it's like news. When Ice-T, when we're doing his host wraps, we'll have a teleprompter there because it's a lot easier for him to read it off a teleprompter and it looks like he's looking right into lens than to have him try to memorize all like 4 episodes that we're going to do in one day. Nobody can do that. So teleprompter really is handy for stuff like that, handy for news and stuff. All right, sound department. We got a few minutes left, we'll do this. So basically, sound department there's going to be someone who's a sound mixer who's in charge of recording all the sound. Contrary to like normal, iPhones and cameras, the sound is not recorded in the camera. It's recorded by a separate person to record a sound mixer who records it, all the tracks isolated. So each actor or person is going to have a wireless microphone on. They may have a boom operator holding the boom right over them out of frame. And all this stuff's all these signals are going to go into the sound mixer and record it as individual tracks. And then they're going to go back later on and pick which ones they want to use and use them for editing. We don't just put a microphone on the camera and say, okay, there's our sound. It doesn't work that way. We need to have good sound. Even when we do all of that, there's still a chance that it's ADR, which is automatic dialogue replacement, is going to happen. That means later on after the edit, they're going to bring the actors into a sound stage and have them lip sync and do their lines all over again to get better quality sound. So sound department's its own thing. They work, just as hard as everybody else does, but they're really critical. There's this whole joke on set about waiting on sound, because every time, especially if you're shooting outdoors, like in LA area, we're always waiting on airplanes and stuff because there's car horns or something that's interfering with the sound. So we're always looking at the sound mixer, and that person's like, not yet, not yet. Okay, we're good now. Now you can roll. And then suddenly an airplane flies over and we have to do it again. Art department. Okay, art director. So this is basically the director is going to work with the director and the production designer, and they're going to be responsible for like designing and construction of movie sets. So they're essentially assistants to the production designer, but they're going to help make this movie become a reality. So if the production designer figures everything out, draws it up, has all these blueprints and everything, art directors are going to help execute that. Prop makers, well, they're the ones who are going to make all the specialized props. They're going to sculpt their things or whatever is needed. Anything that's needed to be built or created or too difficult to attain or too expensive to buy, the prop maker is going to make. So they're their whole separate department. Most studios have their own prop department with dozens of people that's all they do. So they're the ones who are going to make stuff. Prop master, well, they're actually going to go out and find things that we could use. So they're going to acquire, organize, maintain accounts for all various props needed for production. So what's a prop? Well, it's basically any set decoration piece that can be easily moved or easily used. So it could be anything from a cup, a gun, a guitar, whatever, a computer, anything that maybe the actors interact with is a prop. So a lot of times they may if you're in LA, which is the world central for filmmaking. If you go in the Valley, there are huge warehouses full of stuff. If you're shooting a period piece from 1992 and you need a cell phone from 1992, there's a prop house that has one that you can rent. And so these prop masters, they know all the places. They know exactly where to find all the stuff, and that's their job. Scenic artist, painter, well, yeah, they're going to be in charge of painting the set surfaces and all that stuff. Set decorators, dresser, well, they're going to make decisions on what furnishings and what decorations go into there. They're going to, again, work with the director and the production designer to figure out what it is we need, but they're going to help create all that level of stuff. Storyboard artist, well, before anything happens, we need to kind of pre-visualize what's going on in this movie. So storyboard artists will create a series of illustrations or sketches that kind of take what's inside the director's head and get it into a visual format that we all can see and go, oh, I understand what that is. And you guys are going to learn how to do storyboards. We're going to do storyboards in this class. You're like, oh, no, I don't know how to draw. I can't do that. Don't worry, I got you covered. We'll talk about how to do that when it comes up. So storyboards can either be more visually just loose interpretations of what the director is trying to do, just to even sell a movie. Star Wars was a great example. George Lucas hired this person he was a technical artist. He drew all these really elaborate storyboards that Lucas used to help pitch and sell Star Wars to 20th Century Fox, because he was explaining these worlds, these aliens, all this cool stuff. But if he had pictures of it, the artist's interpretation of it to show the producers, the studio execs, they helped him sell the idea. So sometimes storyboard artists are used for that. Other times they're used directly to help visualize camera angles. So we may say, okay, these are the shots I want to create, and I'm going to actually make storyboards that exactly show me what I want to shoot. So there are two different ways of using storyboards. Location manager. So especially in LA out here, any place you want to shoot on location, you need to have a manager that understands all the legal permits, everything you need to do to be able to shoot on a location. They know all the places you could shoot in LA. And so, for example, we used to, when I was doing 1,000 Ways, we would have a location manager meet us every Monday afternoon, and we'd drive around LA looking at locations and decide where we're going to shoot. So that's called, also known as location scout. So location manager would be the person in charge of coordinating everything. A scout may actually take us there. So we had a scout that would take us to locations, and we'd make a decision whether or not we'd want to shoot at these places. And then they would make the deal and make it happen. So that could be, you know, a warehouse. That could be some private person's home that allows people to shoot in their movies at their place. It could be anywhere, but you need somebody to manage that and someone to help with the scout. And of course, makeup and wardrobe. We've got costume designer designing costume, hairstylist does it, makeup artist, special effects. So makeup artist is going to do normal makeup. Every actor, actress you see on the screen has makeup on. There's no natural beauty out there. It's all makeup all the time. So there's always someone's job to do that. Hairstyling, make sure that even if the hair is all messed up, there's a hairstyle artist that's just making sure that hair is perfectly messed up every time. Special effects. If I've got a scene where someone's got a cut on their face or they're burned or something, you know, something happened to them, prosthetics, you name it, I need another person that's just in charge of that does that. So anytime there's blood, anything like that, we'll have someone there. Wardrobe stylist, yep, clothing is all determined. There's no one just shows up on set with their clothing. So someone's in charge of styling that. Then we got stunts, we've got pyro in charge of explosives. Special effect coordinates, we're gonna do a big special effect. I need someone who's in charge of coordinating that, make sure it all happens. Then I need the effect technicians who are actually gonna execute it, whether it's pyro, whether it's, you know, a stunt, whatever it is. Stunt coordinator, if I'm going to do anything that has any type of stunt, even if it is simple fist fighting or anything like that, I need a stunt coordinator to make sure people are doing it safely, no one gets hurt, and that it also comes across on screen like it's real. When there's fights, 9 times out of 10, it's not real. No one's really getting punched or hurt because you can't take the risk, right? I'm not going to punch one of my main actors and knock them out because then our day is done. So even if they're like, I'm tough, man, just hit me. No, it's not going to happen. So we need all that. And on top of all this, I need transportation. So if I've got a huge army of people and equipment, I need someone who's in charge of moving those people and moving that equipment from location to location. Nobody just goes, okay, everybody grab a piece and put it in your car. We'll meet you there. No, it's all coordinated. There's trucks, there's huge trailers, there's all sorts of stuff. So I need captains and gang bosses who are in charge of all that, transportation drivers, people whose job it is just to drive. That's all they do. Just think about it. If we're shooting on location somewhere and we're shooting for 12 to 15 hours, at the end of the day, all those people who are working, you think they're going to be in a great condition to drive home in the middle, late at night? No. So we need someone's job to safely get them from set to the hotel and make sure no one gets hurt. So that happens there. On top of that, I need food. So I need to feed everybody, craft service. So we have lunch, we have caterers, but I also need snacks and stuff to keep people going. The thing about films is that army, the film army, runs off of its stomach. If you've got hungry people with no food, guess what? Everyone's going to grind to a halt. So I need to have craft service, someone's job. Usually it's the PAs and helping out a craft service on smaller productions. Bigger productions, they hire companies just to do that. And then food stylists. Well, if I'm doing a commercial or something for Arby's or Jack in the Box, I need someone to style that food to make sure it looks delicious. Because not only does it have to look delicious, but it has to look delicious and tasty for hours on end because we're shooting it. And that usually means that the food's not edible by the time they're done with it. They're using all sorts of concoctions on it, spraying it, steaming it, doing all sorts of things to make that food look good, but in reality, not really. So these are a huge amount of positions, and these are just some of them. There are hundreds of positions out there. So the other thing to think about when it comes to jobs and everything is that the great jobs are the directors, the DPs, the producers, the writers, all that, all those jobs are these big, jobs that we all think about when we look at the Oscars. But there's an army of people also that make a living off the films, whether they work in catering, transportation, art department, you name it. There's a huge ecosystem that revolves around filmmaking and TV production. So you may get a job somewhere else. You may, like, I know plenty of people who thought they were going to be filmmakers and ended up getting jobs. It's craft service, and they make a great living. They have fun, and they also have a great career. So you may find out that you may think you're going in one direction, but you may end up somewhere else, and you have no idea. That's the cool thing to me about this industry. So the thing here, think about on these vocabulary, let me just go back here one more time. No, not the quiz. We're not taking the quiz right now. What are we talking about? For this quiz, I would focus on production, camera, lighting, maybe a little bit of art department, but I would kind of just read through this and get to know it. I mean, I did the quick, fast go through on it, but these jobs are all interesting to me, and they're all key elements. And the thing about, again, I want to emphasize is that this is a creative collective process. So if you're missing some of these parts of your production, then your production is going to suffer. We need all these people, especially when we're talking about the high-end quality stuff, to get it done. Because in the end, everything that these people do work for is to put it on the screen so that you as the consumer will see this thing and feel like you're justified your cost. So whether it's Game of Thrones, right, and you're justified paying HBO $15 a month because you're getting good quality production, quality movies and TV shows, or Netflix or Apple TV, or you're actually going into the theater, all the work they put in is to make sure that you walk away with a happy experience. We've all gone to the movies or watched something, we're like, man, I just lost 2 hours of my time I'm never getting back. And you don't think these people were happy about that, because nobody wants to work on something that sucks. And sometimes it's out of your control and it happens that way, but we try to avoid it. The goal is to try to make this something that is worth your time and energy, and also your customers, which is the audience's perspective on it. Okay, so a couple things real quick. We talked about all this stuff today. There is a quiz. You have till, I don't know, sometime next week to do it. There's also a little graded discussion here. So you want to do that too as soon as you get a chance. And then next class, we're jumping right into photography versus cinematography, and there's going to be a bunch of stuff to talk about. So that'll be a more technically class. Today was more philosophical, more talking about how the system in the industry works. Starting next class, we're getting into the meat and bones of how we do things. Sound good? All right, well, listen, unless you guys got any more stuff, I'm open to talk, but I'm going to wrap it up. So we got, and I'll see everybody on Wednesday.